Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Saturday edition debate show, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, on Mac Sports and the Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook pages. Please like, follow, and share our Facebook pages. Subscribe to the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel for all the great NESSP shows. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. Our website is nessp.info for info on all our shows, our guests, bios, stores, links to those stores. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer and former president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, with our special guest host, Dr. Paul Semendinger, founder and the head guy over there at Start Spreading the News blog, and also an award-winning author, together bringing you national sports with special focus on Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. Good morning, Doc. Good morning, Jack. How are you doing today?
Good morning, guys. How you guys doing? New York baseball, the Yankees are falling further behind and the Mets are holding on. And I got to just tell you one thing quickly, guys. Clem Mosier, I don't know whether they ever heard of his name, a former broadcaster, WOR Channel 9 many years ago. I'm sorry to start off with this story, Mac, but I can't resist. I think of it every July 4th weekend.
Go ahead.
The Yankees were under 500, and Clem Mosier said, Ralph Houck said if they're at 500 at the end of the year, they're going to win the pennant. And Clem Mosier said they had to win 8 of their last 5 games to win the pennant now. That's the last of my corny stories this show, Mac. I got it out of the way, and I'm deferring to you the next couple hours.
We'll quickly update the hockey as Montreal falls to 3-0, losing 6-3 last night. It looks like that Tampa Bay is going to win the cup again. I'm still hoping, pulling for Montreal to pull off the miracle of all miracles and come back and win that. I love underdogs, especially when my team isn't involved. So we'll see what happens. They're down 3-0. It does not look good, Jack, does it?
No, it doesn't look good. I mean, down 3-0, and Montreal's problem is they haven't gotten ahead. They haven't gotten the first goal in the series. Tampa Bay's jumped right on them. In Montreal's style of play, they grab an early lead, and then they basically just hold on to it the whole game, with their big physical defensemen. They kind of go into a shell of defensive mode, and that just hasn't happened with Tampa Bay. I mean, it looks like a 4-game sweep, and such an exciting Stanley Cup playoff, fellas, and now it's kind of ending. It seems to be ending on a whimper, unless Montreal really surprises the heck out of us.
Definitely. So, guys, you know what that means, right? Every Saturday morning, before we get to our debates or any other information, we start out with our trivia question, which I have expanded because, there's so much trivia that you can talk about that Yankees trivia is only a minor part of Major League Baseball. So I've expanded it a little bit to Major League Baseball. And the question I have for you both, which you're both very knowledgeable on baseball, is what is the longest game ever played in Major League Baseball history?
I'm kicking myself, fellas, because I saw something I think that HBO had on it a while ago. And I remember one of the players got back so late at night, his wife wouldn't let him back in. She thought he was lying when he said he was playing baseball. That's how ridiculous. He went coming in about 8 a.m, back home. Oh, boy. I remember the Mets and Astros years ago. Something like a 26-inning game, a 24-inning game. And I can't tell you the amount. I'm going to guess on the 24 innings a Met-Astro game like decades ago. That are we talking about minor league baseball or just major league, Matt?
Just major league. He's
no. Well, listen, it's a valid point to mention minor league baseball.
Okay. No,
but, I think the 24-inning game about 45 years ago, 50 years ago, the Mets and the Astros at the Houston Astrodome. That would be my guess.
It's a good guess, but it's not right. How about you, Doc?
I thought there was a Cubs game. I thought it was the Cubs and the Cardinals or something like that. And I'm thinking it was 26 innings. I do not know. That's a great question. I know every time the Yankees play the Red Sox, it seems like it's 26 innings and those games go for 100 hours. But the longest game, the only other thing I'm remembering is growing up, having all those baseball books and they always talk about the greatest moments and they had cartoons in them and things like that. And I remember a picture of a scoreboard that just kept going and going and going. But that was a game like, I think it was my dad's book. So the game was probably from the 1940s or something like that. So I'm going to go 26 innings and I'm going to say it was the Cubs and the Cardinals. And I don't know why I'm saying any of that.
Well, the longest recorded game in Major League Baseball history went 8 hours and 6 minutes. It was 25 innings between the Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago White Sox. So they actually cut the game, let them go back home to get some rest, and come back the next day. The 8 hours and 6 minutes doesn't include that. It's just the actual baseball play. So that's the longest recorded baseball game in history.
Guys, you know what I always wondered about those long games? Players got to drive home after the game. And they're human. They're sleep deprived. It's a night game. No, seriously speaking, you expect a player to get behind the wheel of a car at 5 a.m. after being up all night playing baseball. So I wonder whether the teams have accommodations like car services, this and that. And it's good to deal with that beforehand because we don't want to hear about an accident later on and then have the team deal with something like that. So I would hope they're dealing with it right now.
And to let you all know at home, Jack was actually the safety monitor at school. So that hasn't left him. He's always talking about safety while covering the most violent sport in any. So,
and a Hall of Famer.
Yes. And a Hall of Famer covering it also. So before we started debate, last week I threw a little something at you. I'm going to throw a little something else at you before we started our debate. And this is something that I've noticed. You know, I've played and coached a long time, and it seems today, guys, that there's two different extremes in sports right now, right? If you don't win the big one, you're no good, right? I mean, it's ultimate, it's win or you're no good. The other extreme is kind of like the participation trophy. Even if you and your team were bad and really didn't try, you get a participation trophy for being there. It's sort of like going to school and having a perfect record, you know, and absenteeism. You're always there, even if you're sleeping during classes and you fail. So, you know, it seems like it's become two extremes. There's nothing in the middle anymore. When winning is all really about perception, guys, right? If you gave 100% at what you do, you grow a little bit, you learn lessons, you actually won something. Who cares what anybody else thinks? If you grow as a person, you learn lessons, you get a little bit stronger. It kind of helps you out, not only in sports and life, and sports does reflect life in a lot of different ways. So, again, there's somewhere in the middle there. I mean, you've got to understand that sports, as you grow in sports, it's almost the same as life, right? I mean, it's not where you're at, it's how you got there. That's what about the lessons. That's what really living is about. And I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that sports, maybe because the way it's popular with social media and groups and I mean, the newspapers were tough enough, right? The magazines were tough enough. Now they're instantly judging you. And you either, like I said, you either have, if you didn't win, you suck. Or if, hey, he was there, let's give him an award. Don't you think that's kind of too extreme at both angles, Jack and Doc?
Well, I don't know how you feel about it, Doc, to feel that you're in the participation trophies. I mean, I'm all for a kid competing, every kid getting something, especially coming up from schools. But I think there should be levels to it. If there are trophies given, the winning team should get the athlete with more success with his team winning an individual award should get the bigger award, the bigger trophy. But I like the idea of everyone getting a little something. But they also have to know, young people, you're going to be competing in life, okay? You're competing for jobs. You're competing for everything. So you have to try to, strive for certain excellence. And if everyone gets too content and everyone gets a participation trophy and it's the same thing, sometimes the motivation might not be the same. I mean, sometimes it's better to have just a little more motivation by knowing you're going to get something like a little greater.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with any of that. I think I think a lot of it's age dependent and situation dependent. When I coached Little League and recreation baseball, when the kids were little, there was something about giving them a participation trophy that you went out, you played the game, you were part of a team. And I think there's something that's motivating about that. If you're a little kid and you get to put a little baseball trophy up on your dresser or your shelf for a number of years that says, look, I was part of something. You might not have been any good or anything like that. On the other hand, when they stress winning too much at young ages, I've always found that to be problematic, because then you're taking like third or fourth graders. I could tell you real stories about that of a year when a coach, my one son was in third grade and playing, and they were giving awards for first place in Little League, and I said, hey, my kid would like a chance to pitch, and he's like, well, he's not one of the top 3 pitchers of 9-year-olds on the team, and so he wasn't going to be allowed to pitch. And that coach had his team go undefeated in Little League for the month of June and May and June, whatever the league was. And I think sometimes this idea that we have to win gets taken to extremes. Like if you're winning the Little League and that's your number one thing, I think there's a problem with that. I think when they're little, if you give them a participation trophy, it's a good thing. I think when they're little, we shouldn't be stressing winning all that much. But as they get older, if they're playing travel baseball or travel soccer, any travel sport, then I think it should be more about winning, because now you're trying to teach them at a higher level. This isn't an instructional league. This is a league where you're trying to learn about how to play and be a competitive ball player. And that's really for the kids who are more elite anyway. And they have to learn about winning and losing because they're playing in these more competitive leagues. But ultimately, I just wrote this little note to myself. I think what we have to teach kids is, whether or not there's a trophy or an award or anything, that the satisfaction, as Mac was saying in the beginning, has to come from within. It has to come inside. Like whether we win or lost, did we give our best? I'll give a quick story. I had a game about a week ago. I was pitching and I got to the field. This is in a higher level baseball league. I'm new to the league this year. And the one guy said, the guy who was coaching the team that day said, Paul, you have to go all 9 innings. And so I said, all right. And I gave up 6 runs in the first 2 innings, and I was getting shelled. I think some of those balls are still flying around Westwood, New Jersey. And somehow I found something deep inside. And over the last 7 innings, I gave up only 3 runs. Now we lost the game. I gave up 9 runs in total, but there's something that gave me satisfaction about being able to go 9 and to get through it. I think that's the lesson we have to teach the kids. It's not really about whether your team won or whether your team lost. It's what you did. How well did you do? How well did you overcome adversity? And how well did you find a way to succeed as best as you can? So I think there's an answer in both of those.
I think so too. And I'll give you a quick story before we get on. When I took over, when I started coaching at the youth level, when I started there, the league, they hadn't won a game, the team I took over, in 7 years. Not one game. And the year that I first watched, the average score of them losing the football games was over 40 points each game. The teams were decimated. There were no players. Nobody wanted to come out. And remember, you've got to be at least competitive. And the kids got to see, even at that level, that you're competitive, because they listen to their parents, they listen to the other players, they listen to the other teams, and your team is just no good. So they drop out. And in 3 years, I had them banging on the playoffs doors. We improved a little bit each year. But I felt that if you taught the kids right, if you could develop them, even at that young of age, how to do certain things right, and you set up some kind of program, they would improve. And within that 4 years, I became the coach of the whole program, all 4 levels. And we were in championship games. But it wasn't because I stressed so much winning. I stressed so much teaching and how to play positions and what that did at each level. And the kids finally got it. And then we went from, I think it was 40 kids on 3 different teams. We barely had teams to over 160 kids, guys.
Yeah, you built a great program.
So winning does have something to do with it, but it's more important that you become competitive and they understand the games they're playing and why they're playing it and how it helps. I found out that if you tell the kids, even at a young level, why they're doing something instead of just do it, it's a hell of a lot easier to teach them. So that's my quick story for you. So anyway, let's get to why we're here, guys. And as we know, this is what we do every Saturday.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Anything you can be, I can be greater. Sooner or later, I'm greater than you.
That's right, folks. This is our Saturday debate show. Topics that we debate, past, present, and things that affect the future. The first topic that we have is in a local area, guys, that we're from, and that's New York, Boston, and Philly. And the question is, who is the best right fielder in the last 60 years on either New York teams, Boston, or Philly? Jack, you lead us off like you always do every week.
I mean, I'm not going to talk much outside of the guy who I'm going to be selecting, but I have to go over the names. There have been some great right fielders. I mean, great right fielders. And anyone I would pick another guy the next day and another guy the day after that. It's so close. I can give you one of a half dozen guys. And how can I argue if you pick someone else amongst the half dozen? You know, it's such a hard debate. It's such a thin line that we're walking to. Originally, I thought Roger Maris. I mean, he put together, 2-3 phenomenal years, was MVP in 1960, broke home run record in 1961, had an excellent 1962 that people forget, and made a great defensive play in the 7th game for the World Series, hitting the cutoff man on Willie Mays' double in the 9th inning to preserve the win, and went to all those World Series, the 5 with the Yankees. I mean, you think of Reggie Jackson, Mr. October. He was only here 5 years. It's easy to forget. He's a Yankee icon, but he was here 5 years. But they were exciting 5 years, and he was arguably the greatest force of all the players we're going to talk, the greatest force of all, maybe the biggest superstar, but not really the best player. He was lacking defensively. He had issues, and not all of his 5 years were that good. Remember the last year he had, 1981, they moved on from him. He struggled that year. You have Gary Sheffield. He was an RBI machine. He had a great arm, but he never threw anyone out. I never remember Sheffield making a great play. No one really talks about him, even though the man was an RBI machine. That's Darryl Strawberry. Man, at his best, don't be taking our guesses. No, I'm not talking much about him. Just a sentence. The guy I'm going to take. Okay, I'm not going to name the one more guy who you're going to take, but the guy I'm going to take. Okay, for today. Right fielder we're talking about, most consistent, best all around was Paul O'Neill. Paul O'Neill reminds me of a fighter called Emil Griffith, a great fighter, who they said about Emil Griffith, he did nothing great, but everything very good. That's Paul O'Neill. In every single area, the man was very good. Look, he played in the big leagues for 17 years. 9 of them were as a New York Yankee. So we think of him as a New York Yankee. But he did win a world championship with the Cincinnati Reds, 4 with the Yankees. So he has 5 World Series titles to his credit. He hit .303 during his career as a New York Yankee over 9 years. That's pretty darn good. He averaged 95 RBIs a season. That's close to 100 RBIs a year. And he averaged 20 homers a year. We'll take those numbers, guys. 20 homers, 95 RBIs, .303 average. excellent defensive player. Excellent. I won't call him great. I will call him absolutely excellent. Who could forget the 1996 World Series 5th game, 1-0 lead, 2 outs, ball hit in the gap. Paul O'Neill makes an outstanding play. If there's another right fielder there, maybe that play's not made. Maybe the Yankees don't win the World Series. What a play. George Steinbrenner would get on every play. He never got on Paul O'Neill. He called him his first warrior. When the Yankees were eliminated from the 1997 playoffs against the Indians, normally Steinbrenner would have a fit. He goes into the locker room and he says, that Paul O'Neill has the heart of a lion. And with good reason, with 2 outs, Paul O'Neill gets a ball in the gap, gets a double. He willed himself to second base. He should have been out. He gave his body up and managed to get into second base. And it was inspiring, even to George Steinbrenner. So with all the great players out there, I'm going with the guy, fellas, who wasn't the greatest force. Maybe didn't have the greatest numbers, even though he had excellent numbers, but the best all-around player, good base runner as well, for stealing a base if you need it, Paul O'Neill.
I think it's a great choice, Jack. I'm going with the rivals, right? I'm going to go with a guy named Dwight Evans. Dwight Evans, if you think of right fielders, and defense, there was nobody better. He rivals even Mookie Betts. He rivals any of the outfielders as far as right fielders go. He had 8 Golden Gloves during his seasons with the Red Sox. Not too shabby. He had 2 Silver Slugger awards. He had 1,384 RBIs, second most with the Red Sox. 385 home runs, 10th all time in the NL as a right-handed hitter. So his bat wasn't the best in the beginning. He worked on it, got better. But that gun he had out there, the way he played right field, no team wanted to hit the ball to right field when they played the Boston Red Sox. If you tried to take an extra base on Dwight Evans, you might as well just call yourself out. They didn't run on him. If there was a single hit to right, there was a guy on first, stretching it to third. He had an excellent chance of throwing it out. So all the teams that played them were very aware of not trying to run on Paul O'Neill, another great one, Dwight Evans' arm. Dwight Evans had a rocket, as we all know. And the most interesting comment that I thought came from Mickey Rivers when he was talking about Dwight Evans at one time, when he said that Dwight Evans had probably the best arm that he ever tried to take an extra base on in the major leagues. So, Mickey Rivers very fast. There were a lot of fast players, but I'm just going with fielding, Jack, mainly, because I know Paul O'Neill was a better average hitter, and there's going to be a couple of them more, as Reggie Jackson, as you said, and probably the one Doc is going to pick will probably be better with the bat. But just in fielding alone, I would love to have Dwight Evans as my right fielder. Go ahead, Tim.
Excellent choice, Mac. Before we hear Doc, I can't argue with that choice.
You really can't. And the amazing thing about Evans is history is treating him very well. I like to talk about war and all that. So that I always use as a baseline. And if you look at the greatest right fielders of all time, number 8 is Reggie, if we're going to talk about local guys. And then number 15, believe it or not, is Dwight Evans. So if you look at the greatest right fielders of all time, every single one of them above Dwight Evans is in the Hall of Fame, except Shoeless Joe Jackson. And the guy right after Evans is Ichiro Suzuki. And then, amazingly here, too, the guy right after Ichiro is Reggie Smith, who spent a lot of time also with the Red Sox. So you're absolutely right. Evans was an outstanding fielder. Evans also did a lot of got on base a lot through walks. And in the 70s and 80s, when he played, people didn't look at walks as an offensive weapon. And that's obviously changed the way people understand the game today. So he would even be much more highly regarded today. So Dwight Evans is a great pick. But the guy I'm picking is the young superstar today. He's probably going to make his best name over the rest of his career as a member of the Dodgers. But if we're talking about a great right fielder, maybe the most talented right fielder over the last 60 years to play on any of these teams, I think it has to be Mookie Betts. Mookie, of course, is young. He's a superstar. he has already been a 2-time World Series, a 4-time Silver Slugger. He's won an MVP. He's won 5 Gold Gloves, and a 4-time All-Star. I just think the sky is the limit. We're going to be talking about guys teams let get away later. Now, the Red Sox traded him. He didn't get away as a free agent, but I think the Red Sox letting Mookie Betts go is one of those things that I just don't know how you can. I think he's going to end up in the end as one of the great players who ever played the game. And people would compare Mookie Betts to Aaron Judge. And at one point it looked like maybe Judge would be the better player, but Judge just can't stay in the lineup like Mookie Betts can. And I think Mookie Betts, again, is going to be – he's already, as we go on that list, number 24th all time. The 24th greatest right fielder of all time. And he's only 28. He hasn't even hit his prime yet, or his full prime. So my guy's Mookie.
Let me ask you this question that's thought-provoking in regard to Mookie Betts that I've never heard anyone mention. Was he such a good defensive right fielder with the Red Sox because he had the comfort of having one of the greatest defensive center fielders playing next to him in Jackie Bradley Jr.?
Yeah, I don't know how you answer that, because I don't know how you take that into consideration. But obviously when you look at like what they call defensive WAR, D-WAR on Baseball Reference, he's been a plus every single year of his career. So he's a plus outfielder even with the Dodgers these last 2 years, and Jackie Bradley Jr. isn't with them over there. So
yeah. Listen, I mean, you could say the same thing about Dwight Evans with Fred Lynn, and I mean they're outfielders that play together. But I agree, Doc. Mookie's the sky's the limit. If he don't get injured, he's a future Hall of Famer, I think. So we'll see.
I didn't even think of Mookie Betts, maybe because he's active and he's still playing, and we're waiting for him to finish things out. Same with Aaron Judge. You're kind of waiting for them a few more years. But Mookie Betts, I'll agree with you, already has the body of work, unlike Aaron Judge, where, he's a viable selection. But let me throw this at you. Let's say Mookie Betts all of a sudden falls apart and he's out of baseball in 2 to 3 years. He forgets how to hit and field. Has he done enough from this point to this point where you could say there's a little bit of your pick based that on what you're projecting he's going to continue to do to an extent?
No. I think if he stops playing in the next year or two, he just goes down. A guy like Mattingly, who had a great peak, was really great for a while, but he's not a Hall of Famer or one of the best. The other guy we didn't mention who just deserves a shout out is Dave Winfield.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to say that. And Reggie, I think Reggie deserves a lot of accolades too. I mean, listen, the man was a superstar with the Yankees, and did something that hasn't been done a lot, in that three home runs on 3 consecutive pitches. Was in the World Series when they got Reggie Jackson. There's no doubt that they were World Series contenders every year. So,
but guys, there were intangibles too. Reggie got suspended 5 games for refusing to bunt. I mean, there are intangibles that come into it. I couldn't imagine Paul O'Neill going back to Joe Torre, refusing to bunt, giving him a hard time. Some of the other guys, it was a different time, different attitudes. I understand that. Yeah.
Not only that, we're not talking about a player as a player. We're just talking about playing his position. And with the A's, Reggie was a good fielder too. So I mean, listen, he kind of fell off when he was with the Yankees. So
and the other thing, I'm sorry, I'm just going to go back to O'Neill real fast.
Finish it up.
The thing that endeared him to Yankee fans, he wasn't necessarily the best sport. And we were talking about like teaching kids about how to play the game the right way. But boy, when he got out and he got angry and he showed his emotion on the field, I think that endeared him to Yankee fans. And I think that's one thing that the current Yankees don't necessarily show is a whole lot of emotion. Not saying they have to knock apart water coolers and throw their bats and all that. That's not necessarily great. But on the other hand, they just seem to strike out and just walk back to the bench, and you don't see them being bothered. And one of the things I think that New York sports fans always want is they want their players like Paul O'Neill to be warriors, and 2 outs in the 9th inning of the playoffs and to try to squeeze a single into a double and to keep hope alive. And maybe if the current iteration of the Yankees had just a little bit more of that fight, they'd be more beloved, and people would give them more of a like, hey, at least they're trying. I think the sense today, right, is that a lot of these guys we know they're trying. We know they're giving their best. It just doesn't see it. The people aren't seeing it. They don't wear their emotions like Paul O'Neill did out on their sleeves.
Well, the current Yankees don't really have a true leader per se. Someone who would get in other guys' faces, inspire them, know how to talk to them. You just don't see it anywhere from the manager to the players. It's just not there the way it used to be. But on this topic, has there been for a couple of years, there hasn't been a better local right fielder than Roger Maris for 2-3 years of his career. I mean, the body of work wasn't there, but for a couple of years, absolutely no one was better.
Back-to-back MVPs, so you can't argue it.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Great fielder and, of course, a lot of power. So let's move to football, guys. And this is going to be about the New York Jets. And of course, as we know, the Jets traded away Sam Darnold. They went and drafted another quarterback, I guess, that they're going to use as their starter. We'll see what happens with it. But I'm going first, and to say they're going to regret it, I guess, is strong. But I would have a lot of concern. Sam Darnold. See, what we do with quarterbacks is we center all our attention around them, right? I mean, we have what they call so-called franchise quarterbacks now. I don't even really know what that term means. It means he's a good quarterback, normally on a good team. Because if he's not on a good team, he's definitely not going to be a good quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. We think of Joe Namath. And Joe Namath, he was great for 1 year. He did something that's historic. But if you look at his stats, they don't match up to most of the Hall of Famers there. He wasn't overall a great quarterback. He was really great for a few years, and he did something, helped do something, was form the league together into the NFL from the AFL and NFL. But really, it was a good very good quarterback. Even if you look at Terry Bradshaw, guys, 4 Super Bowls. His stats are nowhere close to some of the people in the Hall of Fame right now. He was on a great team. He had one of the best running backs in the league, one of the greatest defense in the league, and one of the best offensive lines in the league. And you can say that about Bob Greasy. You can say that about a lot of quarterbacks that right now are in the Hall of Fame. So a lot has to do, right place, right time, right team. I tell you right now, Terry Bradshaw is not better than Fran Tarkenton, who went and lost 3 Super Bowls. He's not better than Dan Marino, who will never win a Super Bowl, only went once. I mean, if you look at the stats. But Dan Marino wasn't on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and neither was Fran Tarkenton. So a lot has to do with what you're with. Eli Manning's going to Hall of Fame, as many interceptions as touchdowns. The Giant defense really won those 2 games for him. He made a couple plays, one very lucky. But is he better than all the other quarterbacks there? So what I look at, guys, is what team you're with and the circumstances of that team. Sam Darnold comes into the league on one of the worst teams, Jack, in the last 3 or 4 years. Worst. I mean, I'm not even talking bad. One of the worst teams. He had no running game to speak of. They couldn't even hand the ball off without the running back getting hit. Had no receiver really to throw to. Not one great. His defense was terrible on the other side, always starting in terrible positions. And he got hurt because he played in front of a bad offensive line. So what do the Jets do? The Jets say, okay, and let me tell you, it wasn't an overall unanimous decision. There's stories that the head coach did not want to move on from Sam Darnold, that the ownership and GM said it was time. So he's traded away, and they pick, who do they pick? They pick a young rookie that is a younger version of Sam Darnold. Same exact type of quarterback, throws downfield, has a few interceptions, kind of a gunslinger. So the Jets have a new season, a new start, a new head coach, and maybe they'll be good, maybe they won't. Sam Darnold goes on to play for the Panthers, who had a pretty decent team. Maybe he does good, maybe he don't. The point I'm trying to make is that football is a dependent league. We forget that. We look at Tom Brady and forget New England Patriots were great. We look at Tom Brady at Tampa Bay and forget that Tampa Bay already had a very solid team. Now, is Sam Darnold Tom Brady? No, of course not. But if he played with the Patriots for 20 years, he might be up there close. So guys, I don't know if it's going to be a regret or if it's a mistake. I just think maybe they may have rushed it a little too soon. That's all. What do you think, Doc? And then we'll get to Jack. I know Jack's fighting in the bit to get to this.
He's chomping at the bit. All right, so here's my thought. The Jets have decided to go in a whole new direction, and there's a new head coach and a new philosophy. And I think when that happens, if you had a superstar quarterback, maybe if Sam Darnold was really phenomenal, you say, look, even though we have a new leadership, we're going to build our team around him. But I don't think Sam Darnold was a great quarterback. I'm looking at NFL.com. It says no quarterback with more than 110 pass attempts had a lower passer rating than Darnold. His flashes in leading the Jets to consecutive wins over playoff teams late in the season could help inspire teams to maybe make a trade for him. But his numbers are not very impressive. And I think, there's some potential there. He played a number of years. I don't think he inspired anybody. And I think they're going with a whole new look, a whole new team. And I think it makes sense to start fresh with a new coach and give that coach a new quarterback to work with. You know, Darnold did play for a couple of coaches and nobody could get him to get to that next level. I understand it's all the players around you, and I understand it's the coaching systems, but he was never able to inspire any great confidence. So I think it's time for a change. I'm happy the Jets are making a change. I'm happy the Jets are going in a new direction. And I wish them all the best. I'm not a big football fan, as you know. I don't watch it as closely as you guys do, but I think the time was ripe to make the change and to give somebody else a shot.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you, Mac, you said Carolina had a good team. What were they, 6-10 last year? Something. I mean, if you consider that good fun. We wish Sam Darnold well. I really hope he does well. But it's going to come down to this. If Zach Wilson turns out to be the franchise quarterback for the New York Jets and they picked him number 2 overall, the Jets aren't going to have any regrets no matter what Sam Darnold does. Sam Darnold was with the Jets 3 years, okay? He didn't produce in 3 years. I agree with you. They didn't get him all the weapons, all the players he should have had. But Doc used a word, okay, that is a very good word. He didn't inspire. He didn't inspire anyone as quarterback of the Jets during the 3 years. Yes, he would show some flashes now and then, some potential. He'd show a guy like you, Mac, when he had half a season out of 3 years where he went 6-2, that he was the guy. But there are other 5 halves to those 3 seasons in which he was either injured or didn't play well. And when a quarterback's with you 3 years and they haven't made real progress, you have to move on. Look, it comes down to this. Like I said, if Zach Wilson plays well, proves himself to be a really good quality NFL quarterback, no one's going to complain. It's kind of like the NBA draft when Michael Jordan was taken 3rd overall. Everyone criticizes the Portland Trail Blazers who went 2nd because they took Sam Bowie, who was hurt a lot at the time, failed to live up to his potential. But no one criticizes the Houston Rockets who went number 1. They took Hakeem Olajuwon. Now, everyone agrees Jordan's a little better than Olajuwon. Houston would have loved to have had Jordan, but they had a great play in Olajuwon, so they were kind of content with what they did. The first game of the season, guys, is going to be compelling. The Jets are playing Carolina, and if Carolina wins, Sam Darnold looks great. Zach Wilson struggles. Everyone's coming out of the woodworks. You're going to hear me next day, Mac, go on the show and say, I don't understand why the Jets wanted to move on. You know, I'm only joking there, but a lot of people are going to be saying that, look, Tom Brady, let's use him as an example last year. People in New England are questioning why they didn't get weapons around Brady, an iconic New England player, why they didn't keep Tom Brady, how they could let him go. They should have given Tom Brady what he wanted. But even though Tom Brady won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, I can guarantee you if Cam Newton was outstanding during the year, any other quarterback in New England was in the playoffs. They got eliminated, but the quarterback position wasn't an issue. people wouldn't be saying that, well, why did we move? Why did we let Tom Brady leave? Okay, I said my answer, in a nutshell, is no. The Jets won't regret for moving on from Sam Darnold, unless, of course, he turns into an outstanding NFL quarterback and Zach Wilson flops. Then people are going to question it. But any other scenario outside of that, they won't regret it.
Well, I got one question for you. You ever hear of a guy named Phil Simms, Jack?
Well, what does that have to do with anything?
Phil Simms was drafted in 1979, Jack. He didn't start showing his true potential until 1985 because the Giants had bad teams and because he got hurt. So all of a sudden, Phil Simms, who is now almost a legend in the Giants' forlore, took him 6 years, Jack. And after them 6 years, after he took the Giants to the championship, I helped lead him, won a Super Bowl in 86. Had him competitive, 87, 88, 89, and 90. He got hurt when the Giants were 10-0. And he played till 1993, where he had his best year ever, passing for over 4,000 yards, and had the Giants on the verge of going to championship again. Took him 6 years, Jack.
I didn't realize that he came from Morehead State, a small college, so he wasn't that greatly touted. Same thing with Zach Wilson.
That's not true. That's not true. In fact, that's not true, Jack, because if the Giants didn't take him, Bill Walsh was going to take Phil Simms before Joe Montana. So he's very highly talented. I mean,
but it's not the same situation. Phil Simms didn't play. Sam Darnold was playing. There's a difference in Sam Darnold. We have a body of work. We didn't have one for Phil Simms.
You're wrong again, Jack. In 1979, had outstanding rookie season. In fact, he threw 4 touchdowns, I think, in his second game. And he threw for over 400 yards, so you're wrong. He got injured, and he couldn't finish the season. And then they got a guy named Scott Bruner, who actually had a competition with. I don't even know what they were thinking. A guy named Rutledge he had a competition with. In fact, he was ready to be traded. He wanted to be traded before Parcells said, "You're it." He went to the GM. He wanted out. And so on that information, you're wrong. All I'm saying, Jack, and this is all I'm saying. I don't know if regret's the right word. The thing I'm saying is, as Doc said, 2-3 different head coaches, 3 different offensive coordinators, hurt, and playing on a team that was one of the worst teams in the league, and still went 6-2 during that run, all on himself. So you might be right. Zach Wilson might be great, and Sam Darnold might be average. But
Matt, the question says, I know where you're going, but no, this is the question. Will they regret moving on from Sam Darnold? The question isn't, is Sam Darnold going to prove himself to be a quality NFL quarterback? He might.
Right. But we won't know until Zach Wilson either makes it or falls flat on his face, will he? So I mean, we're just thinking ahead and saying what could happen. We don't know. All I know is the Jets had a veteran there that could have been a leader for all these young players they got, and now they got a rookie quarterback that really can't be a leader because he's a rookie with a bunch of rookie players. So we'll see.
Reports coming out of camp, he's taking charge, leadership. He's shown great leadership and maturity. Those are just reports. I don't know how accurate they are. But the 3 years, as Doc said, Sam Darnold didn't inspire. No one thought of him, as the leader of the team. The Jets were lacking in leadership. If they had any leadership, it was when they had a safety like Jamal Adams there. That's where they were getting leadership from. They weren't really getting it from the quarterback position, maybe because he was hurt part of the time. For whatever reason, the leadership was lacking on the offensive side of the ball. Listen, we wish him luck. I mean, Sam Darnold, big, strong guy, might turn into a quality NFL quarterback. I'll be rooting for him. As long as Zach Wilson plays well, if they both play well, that would be the best scenario.
Definitely. And I'm rooting for the Jets to do well. You know that, Jack. Folks, we're going to take our first break. We'll be right back after this message. Let me see where we going next. Let me see if I got it right. The most prestigious, it was like worded ring, but I think we're saying ring/championship in all sports. So that'll be interesting because I would imagine all 3 of us will have different answers for this. So we'll see what that comes up to. And we'll be right back, folks, after these few messages. Stay with us. What do you think is the most prestigious championship in sports? Well, you'll get our views coming up right next.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma.
I love you too. Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed. Yeah, well, Kyle's not here. How come? Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's gonna be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he gonna know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're starting you off early in the morning on Northeast Streaming Sports. I'm Mac, your host, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, and our special co-host that comes in almost every Saturday, like clockwork, Dr. Paul Semendinger. And guys, I want to share something to the folks. We always talk about nessp.info, the website over there. And let's see if I can find the banner here. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, la, la, la. I swear to God, sometimes when I want something, it's not right where I want it. I've got like 100 different banners in here I'm trying to find. But anyway, NESSP is where you go through to check out all of our shows and all our guests. I think I can share this so the folks can take a quick look. Dr. Paul Semendinger is on there. And I'm gonna go ahead and try to bring it up. And you guys tell me if it's working or not, please, because this can get iffy when I'm sharing something besides video. So let me know if it's up there so they can see it. The viewers can see it. It should be coming up right now.
There it is. Yep.
You guys see it? Okay, so that's what the website looks like, folks. We have, as you see, a lot of different things. Our shows, our Wall of Fame, Yankees update from the PR, Giants update for the PR. But we also have our sports insiders, I call them, where we have all our guests. And, we got Byron Williams, Iceman John Skelly, and there he is. There's the doc right there. Start spreading the news. And if you just go to the web page,
good-looking guy. There he is.
Oh, he is. I like the books too. It makes them look studious. You know what I mean? So if you click on their Stop Spreading the News blog, it should come up, and hopefully it's still coming up. And Doc, whether you know it or not, they're running advertisements on your page, just to let you know when they tune in. But anyway, there's the featured articles they have there. They have their mailbag, as you see. And they do a lot of different stuff over there. It's a full day. The trivia card, they have, all the different things, tweets of the day. So Dr. Paul Semendinger's Start Spreading the News blog is very informative. If you like baseball or you like the Yankees, especially, that's what they feature over there, of course. Dr. Paul Semendinger's Start Spreading News blog. So it's all there, folks, if you want to check it out on NESSP.info. No problem at all, Doc. It's my pleasure. So the website is awesome, guys. Go over and check it out. There's a lot of information, including the guests we have on there, if you haven't been over there yet. So I just wanted to share that with the folks listening and watching right now.
And just a quick note here, just in case people are looking. I'm at the beach. This is not it's an Orioles hat. I'm a Yankee fan, of course. I run a Yankee blog, but it's a Baltimore Marathon hat. It's my beach hat.
Looks like
so it's not the Orioles. It is, but it's more the Marathon than the Orioles.
It's okay you wear that because the Orioles are not considered a threat to anyone at all. So they're non-threatening, so no one cares. I mean, if it's a Red Sox cap, wouldn't go over too well.
You know what, Jack? I'm not fast enough to get in the Boston Marathon, so I don't have to ever worry about that.
Oh, that's just beautiful. Anyway, guys, back to the debate. As I said before the break, we're at the most prestigious award for a championship. And Doc, you're up first.
Yeah, I thought this was a great question because there's so many different levels of things to think about. What's the greatest trophy? Is it the Vince Lombardi trophy by winning the Super Bowl? Is that the greatest thing you could do? If you were to ask any athlete, like, what would be the greatest thing? Do you want to be the heavyweight champion of the world? Do you want to win the World Series? Do you want to win the Super Bowl, or do you want to win an Olympic gold? I think it would come down to those four. I think the Stanley Cup is prestigious, of course, but I don't think that ranks up. And the NBA championship, I think, it would be a distant even further than the Stanley Cup. So what's the greatest award, or what's the greatest dream an athlete might have? I think if you're talking around the world, the greatest dream would be to win the Olympic gold. I don't think anything compares to that. That's an individual, most often, it's an individual accomplishment. It says you are the greatest at that particular sport out of anybody in the world at that particular time. That's pretty prestigious. That's pretty neat. In boxing, of course, I think it would be the heavyweight championship of the world. Does the heavyweight championship of the world have the same prestige nowadays as an Olympic gold? I don't believe so. As far as team sports, it really comes down to the Super Bowl is definitely bigger than the World Series nowadays, right? The Super Bowl is an event. It's a big thing. But in the annals of sport, does the World Series still hold a little bit more than the Super Bowl? And I think it probably does. Baseball's got a longer history. If you were to ask any kid on the street, would you rather win a Super Bowl or a World Series? I think most kids are dreaming of winning a World Series still than winning a Super Bowl. I could be wrong on that, but that's just my gut. So the greatest team trophy, I would say, would still be a World Series. The greatest individual trophy, I would say, would be an Olympic gold.
Well, Jack is definitely rubbing off on you, Doc. You've covered them all.
Listen, I should be fined. I should be fined for this from my end, guys. because I misunderstood the question that I proposed. I didn't make it clear, the question, and you did the right thing, Mac, by countering how the question should be. I misunderstood it. I missed the assignment because I thought we had switched it to the 4 major team sports and which item you get back, which ring is the most prestigious. That's what I was kind of thinking. So I don't have an exact set answer, okay, on this, unfortunately. So I lose this part of the debate, but I'll just quickly go over it. Yeah, the gold medal, I understand what you're saying, Doc. Everyone in society who's not a sports fan knows what a gold medal is. They know gold, silver, bronze. But consider this, the swimmer Michael Phelps, he has like 23 gold medals? Come on, give me a break. I mean, it depends what you win a gold medal in. I think being an Olympic champion trumps anything with a medal, altogether, because are you going to compare winning an Olympic marathon to the 4x100 meter relay, the gold medal, the value in it? I kind of don't think so. In basketball, they talk about rings. That's how they judge players, unfortunately. Well, he has X amount of rings compared to him, so he has to be better. I don't go for that. World Series, they don't talk about World Series rings. I think the World Series isn't as big as it was to us when we were younger, to this generation. I think an NBA championship to young people is more prestigious. The Stanley Cup, they're passing it all over. It's so prestigious, but what does the player get out of it that's tangible outside of the pride of winning the cup? They might be able to keep the cup in their house for one day. As I understand, they pass it around, but what does he have? So I'm going to call an audible, Mac. I was going to say the NBA championship because of the ring. They talk about the rings. But I saw in Sports Illustrated, and I don't wear rings, believe it or not, okay? I just don't like them on my finger. Being a phys ed teacher, and my wife, who's wonderful, understood why I never wore my wedding ring, because as a phys ed teacher, I didn't like it on my hand physically. I'm catching a ball a lot of the time. So kudos to my wife, Audrey, for always understanding why I didn't wear the ring, because physically I never liked a ring on my finger at that aspect. But the Super Bowl rings, you see them, okay? How beautiful they look year after year. You see them in Sports Illustrated. And even someone like myself who hates having a ring on his finger may have actually slipped one on just to look at them because they're like so different, like to study out. So my feeling is of all the athletes, gold medalists and that, the Super Bowl ring, okay, I think would give a little edge right now because it's the only one of its kind. In the Olympic medals, athletes can so easily win multiple ones in certain sports. So I'll go with the Super Bowl ring.
All right, so I don't even know if there's a ring for World Series or Stanley Cups. Is there a ring for Stanley Cups, Jack? I don't know about a ring.
World Series winners get a ring.
But that's the point, Mac. That you make up a great point. We never hear about players wanting to win a ring, hockey, what they're getting. They get to hold the Stanley Cup, kiss it, which is a beautiful thing, beautiful thing to view. And it's heartwarming. But what are they getting that's tangible that they're going to have the rest of their life?
Well, I'm going to make an argument for the Stanley Cup, believe it or not. And I kind of agree with Carlos. The Olympics, they don't watch them no more. So how can that be prestigious as some of the other ones? I understand you're saying you're the best athlete in the world for that day, but who are you, right? I mean, nobody knows anymore. Basketball, to me, Jack, is still not the biggest sport. I don't know what it is with basketball. I mean, that's just my personal problem. The Super Bowl, whether it's the ring or the Lombardi Trophy, very prestigious. I mean, to win the Vince Lombardi Trophy is something to say. But I'm going to make an argument for the Stanley Cup, believe it or not. I'm going to tell you why. The Stanley Cup is history. You're not getting a separate award. You can't keep that in your lobby. And here you are. You have to win that and hold on to it and protect it again. It's not like you protect that same Super Bowl trophy. Nobody takes that from you. But they take the Stanley Cup. And what's on there? Signatures, Jack. History of the game. I mean, you're actually holding history in your hand. I mean, what's more prestigious than that? As I said, you win the World Series, great. But there's no signature from the Yankees on that, right? From past years. There's no gold medals that have, Jim Thorpe won this back in 1960, whatever, 1860, whatever. So how is that not prestigious? If you think about it, it would be like Doc with the gold medals there, that someone could come and take your gold medal away from you after they win the same event. Isn't that cool? I mean, you're actually not only defending your team, you're defending that award. So that's why I give an edge to the Stanley Cup. It's not just one award per year. That is the award. That's the whole hockey history that you're holding on to and your lobby are passing around for that 1 year. And Tampa Bay might get it twice in a row. There are some teams that won multiple ones. So here's the great Wayne Gretzky or Gordie Howe. You're holding his trophy. That to me is pretty cool, guys.
Yeah, you're right. That's a great answer.
I can't argue. I mean, I'm trying to put myself in an athlete's shoes. If I can play or do anything and win any award, what would I like? I mean, there's something to be said about a gold medal, an individual gold medal, as opposed to a team. But that's the difference between team sports and individual, and how do you really compare? Look, but there's so many titles in boxing. Boxing is screwed up. Let's be honest about it, with all the different divisions, all the different titles. But one thing fighters never get tired of, they want belts. Even if it's a nonsensical intercontinental belt, it means a lot that they have a tangible belt that they're holding up. It could be a state title. It could be the most obscure, nonsensical title of all. But if they're given a belt, something tangible, it's a big deal to them. But winning the Stanley Cup is so powerful. Winning an Olympic gold medal is so powerful. And, I can't argue with anything. This is one debate that I'm not going to argue against someone else's position on. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, all the awards are at that level are satisfying. Prestigious, there's different types of prestigiousness, I guess, if that's even a word. But man, there's something to me. If I could hold Babe Ruth's World Series trophy in my hands and I won it, wow. That would
I got to tell you, in 1972, the United States only had one gold medal winner in boxing, Sugar Ray Seales, not Leonard. Sugar Ray Seales. I saw him a couple of years ago at the Boxing Hall of Fame in Canastota. He doesn't know me. Chances are I never heard of my name. I see him walking all alone. And I run up to him and I go, yeah, it's Sugar Ray Seales. I just want to say hello. And I wanted to say something nice to him because, years go by and a lot of these guys are forgotten and so on. To thank him for representing our country in 1972, for bringing glory to everything. He takes out his gold medal. He puts it in my hand. He wants me to hold, just hold it a moment because he wants to bring me good luck. Right. That's what it means to these guys emotionally, something tangible. And listen, to me, being an Olympic champion or world champion in anything, that's the thing. The physical award you're given should be secondary. But it worries me with these guys. You never want them to lose the physical thing they were given because they could be devastated, by something like that. But it means so much to them what they're given in the tangible thing, be it a ring, a medal, a championship belt.
Sure. So we have the next topic, guys, is the biggest release of a player to free agency, not a trade. But you had a chance to sign him maybe, whatever happened, and another team picked him up. And what is the biggest release of a player that, say, went on to play great for another team, and you're kind of sorry you let him go? So, Jack, we start with you, and who's your guy?
Mac, it's okay that if you disagree with me. I have no problem. That's usually the case, anyway. If I say A, you're going to want to say B. We're good with that, but I'm worse than you are in that regard. But if Doc disagrees with me, he ought to be ashamed of himself.
Oh,
okay?
man, a lot of pressure here.
Because it means he didn't do deep thinking in this question. Now, they're better players than the guy I'm going to mention. Better players, but no team was impacted as negatively by losing this guy. And we're talking about local teams, right? Yankees, Red Sox, Phillies, Mets. Yankees not re-signing Jeff Nelson. Was devastating to the team. People might not remember it in the year 2021, but go back. Listen, Jeff Nelson was arguably, at least one of the greatest setup men in baseball history. He was the bridge to Mariano. Listen, the evidence is there. Jeff Nelson was on the 96 team. Obviously, he wasn't the bridge to Mariano. Well, he was the indirect bridge because Mariano was the bridge to John Wetland in 96. But then from 1997 through 2000, Jeff Nelson was the guy. He was this ultimate setup guy for Mariano. Okay, they go to the playoffs in 97, but they win it in 98, 99, and 2000 with Jeff Nelson as the setup man. He was a great setup man, and I don't want to hear, well, his ERA was this or that. Jeff Nelson would always keep the opposing team in check. He would hand the ball over basically to Mariano. I did my job. I held serve. Now you finish it out. At the end of the 2000 season, Jeff Nelson is a free agent. The Yankees could have kept him for chump change compared to what they pay. All of a sudden, the Yankees decide to become businessmen with Jeff Nelson. They decide to become very prudent. So for a couple of $1 million, they let him walk to the Seattle Mariners. You know what happens in the year 2001? Jeff Nelson, for the first time in his career, becomes an all-star. Not that he wasn't of all-star caliber before, because he was, but setup men are never elected to the all-star team. It's virtually never. It was unheard of. But Jeff Nelson he makes the all-star team in 2001, and he leads the Seattle Mariners to 116 victories, or one of the key pieces why they won 116 games. Without A-Rod, I should add. A-Rod left he wasn't there. That was his first year now with them. The 2001 World Series. We so desperately needed Jeff Nelson in that seventh game we lost to Arizona. Mariano Rivera's called in to pitch 2 innings of relief. Mariano was at his best pitching 1 inning. First inning, Mariano's in. He gives up a weak single but strikes out 3 Diamondbacks with the Yankees having a 2-1 lead. And, of course, the 9th inning where it got away and we lost the game. Had Jeff Nelson still been with the Yankees, they would have won the 2001 World Series. He would have held them in the 8th inning, handed it over to Mariano. What Mariano did in the 8th inning, he would have did in the 9th inning. It cost the Yankees a darn World Series. Guess what? They get Jeff Nelson back in 2003. They go to the World Series again with Jeff Nelson. So he has a little bit of a second act. But it was a disastrous move in that I believe the Yankees would have won the 2001 World Series. And they brought in a bunch of other guys to fill Jeff Nelson's spot. They didn't bring Armando Benitez. He didn't cut it. They brought in a bunch of guys auditioning for the job when they had the ultimate bridge to Mariano, the ultimate bridge. They didn't even realize what they had, and for chump change for the Yankees, they let him go. That was the worst thing, worst player that wasn't re-signed because of the impact it had on the team.
Yes. And Jack, I agree with everything you just said there. Just to let the folks know, I let Jack pick first, so that might have been one of my choices. But being the gracious host I am, I let him pick first. But listen, I think I came up with a winner here. Who was probably the most dominant defensive line player in football during the late 80s and 90s. And everybody knows it was Reggie White. Reggie White was an unbelievable, dominating defensive end who could throw you on the ground. It could run around you, could run a 4-something 40 at 300 and something pounds. Was a sack leader for the Philadelphia Eagles. When he was there, the Eagles defense was one of the best in the league, maybe the best at that time some years. Reggie White led the league in sacks year after year after year, led the Eagles in tackles year after year after year. And what do? They let him go to Green Bay. The Green Bay Packers, their ownership is the fans. The people of Green Bay actually own the rights to the team. And they all got together, and Reggie White became available and said, yeah, we'll take him. Well, of course, the Packers go to the Super Bowl. Reggie White, again, comes up and is one of the league leaders in sacks, has a sack to end the Super Bowl. This guy is the second all-time leader in sacks in history, guys. He went to 13 Pro Bowls. He played another 6 years with the Packers. That would have been 6 more years with the Philadelphia Eagles, and they were on the verge in the playoffs every year he was there. Now, you know me, I say football is a very dependent sport. But in the individual matchups, you need players like a Reggie White to win. And he won every matchup, guys. It was not even a contest. So to me, I know you guys are baseball guys, and I love baseball too. But if you want to talk about a guy that they let go that totally dominated the defensive side of the ball during his time, Reggie White leaving was the biggest mistake the Eagles made. Okay, Doc.
All right, so I was thinking baseball, as I always do, and I was thinking big-name guys. You know, Jack, you make such a great point with Jeff Nelson, and it made me remember when the Yankees didn't re-sign Andy Pettitte. That also was a huge mistake. Andy Pettitte could have been the all-time winningest Yankees pitcher of all time if the Yankees had kept him. I never understood that. You don't let your legends go, especially when they're still in the prime of their career. So Pettitte goes off to Houston, has a 17-9 season after he was 6-4 in 2004. Then he goes 17-9 in 2005, 14-13 in 2006. Comes back to the Yankees, wins 15 games, 14 games, and 14 games. You know, he could have been the difference in those mid 2004, 2005, 2006. Yankees didn't win any World Series in those years. You know, I obviously I didn't forget about Jeff Nelson, but I forgot to even think of him in this argument because I was thinking big, like who's the big guy who a team let go? And the guy I thought of was a 7-time All-Star, a former Rookie of the Year, and one of the 2 best catchers in the American League, if not in baseball, and that was Carlton Fisk. When the Red Sox let Carlton Fisk go, that really made no sense. You know, I was a young baseball fan at the time, and you know, I severely disliked Carlton Fisk because I loved Thurman Munson, and those guys were arch enemies and big time rivals. But it just made no sense that the Red Sox wouldn't re-sign their great catcher. And Fisk, of course, goes on and continues his Hall of Fame career with the White Sox. So I thought that was a huge miss. But, you know, in retrospect, your point about Jeff Nelson being such an important part of the Yankee dynasty in those years, I don't think can be argued. And I don't disagree. I mean, you're making the point that Mariano was best for 1 inning. In those playoffs, all those years, he usually pitched more than an inning. Torrey would bring him in and use him. But was Jeff Nelson a big part of that? He was, absolutely. So I'm going to say that you're right. I'm going to give this one to you.
You know, both you guys have great points. Listen, first you, Mac. Reggie White, obviously, in his sport, is far better than Jeff Nelson. Not even close. I mean, I wouldn't even. Jeff Nelson's not even on his radar. Reggie White was so great in that sense. Carlton Fisk, great. I agree with you too. That hurt the Red Sox. However, consider the teams. The Eagles would have had to pay big money to Reggie White. They made a business decision. The Red Sox would have had to pay big money to Carlton Fisk. That was a major business decision, too. The Yankees, you know, for them it was chump change. Jeff Nelson wasn't a truly high-priced free agent, And that's what I meant by a mistake. Listen, George Steinbrenner always said the biggest mistake he made was letting Reggie Jackson walk after the 81 season. That would have been Steinbrenner's answer. But but Reggie had a bad 1981, not a good 1981, even though they went to the series. So he felt that Reggie was maybe a fading force. He didn't know Reggie had a little left. The Fisk one is good with the culture. With the Andy Pettitte one is a good example as well, because had Andy Pettitte stayed with the Yankees, not left at the end of 2003, been with them 2004, maybe the bleeding gets stopped. Maybe they beat the Red Sox.
Maybe there's still a curse of the Bambino. Imagine that.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. But keep in mind, Andy Pettitte had elbow issues. It was more, I don't know, was it completely about Andy Pettitte's performance as opposed to their concerns? Would he be able to pitch? Okay? And Reggie White, as great as he was, I don't think it would have resulted in another Super Bowl for the Eagles. I mean, I remember when Jeff Nelson was out, the Yankees just couldn't replace him. They kept bringing in guys for middle relief. It was a constant pain in the butt that seemed to last for years. They had Ramiro Mendoza, who did okay for a while. But no, they missed him badly. It was the equivalent of today where we have Chapman and we think, oh, how nice it would be if we had Rivera. That's what was going on with the middle relief cause. But both you guys came up with great answers for this debate.
Well, the thing I remember about Nelson, which was great with him at home, and if I'm right, that's that 6'10" lefty we had. That slider, that breaking ball he had, especially the left-handed batters, it would run in on the right-handed hitters too. But what a job he would do with that short right field porch in Yankee Stadium. I mean, I don't care who was up. I don't even care if Big Papi, if I remember correctly, he would strike out Big Papi almost every time he pitched because of that breaking ball. He couldn't hit it. So Nelson is a great choice, Jack. Maybe not as big a name or as big as a position as a Reggie White or Carlton Fisk, but sometimes that one little cog, that one little thing messes the whole thing up.
And he wasn't an expensive proposition, guys. That was the point that I took into consideration. It wasn't he wasn't a high-priced free agent like the other guys were. And the Yankees all of a sudden decided, like I said, to draw the line, become really tough businessmen all of a sudden. Where with other guys, they'll just throw some extra millions if they want their man bad enough, such as the signing with Garrett Cole, not long ago. If they absolutely had to, they'll pay more than they wanted to. But with Nelson, they considered him expendable, and that was a mistake.
And some great players brought up by Carlos too. I mean, you're talking, Maddox, and he had a lot of them. So great job by Carlos with all the people he was talking about, Damon, Boggs, some more big names that maybe the Red Sox, maybe if they kept them, they might have kept going, and the Yankees won a World Series then. So those are some great answers too. So guys, we're going to take our last break. We're going to come back on the other side, and we're going to talk about just regular exercising, right? What is the best exercise for people? I think we might all have different answers. I know mine will be different than the other two. So stick to, and it's going to be coming down between swimming, running, or weightlifting or weight training, however you want to say it. Which exercise do you guys think is the best? You're going to find out what our answers are right after these breaks, folks. So stick around with us.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting the stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get us any.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. We're on our Saturday show, our debate show, with special guest host, Dr. Paul Semendinger. Knows a lot about Major League Baseball and its history and is an expert on the Yankees. We love having him on every week. And, of course, as I said, today is the debate show, folks. And we're going to not look at pros right now. We're just going to look at sports in general and what is the best exercise or best regimen you can do to stay in shape. Doc, I think you're up first.
All right. So the question was weight training, running, or swimming. And I do some weight training. I run all the time, as you know. But the thing I don't do is the thing I probably should do. If you're talking about a full body workout, I think the best thing you can do is swim. Swim involves every major muscle group. It's also non-impact. So, you get a lot of weight training injuries. You lift too much or you don't lift the right way. You pull a muscle, you strain something. Obviously, if you run and you run a lot, there are opportunities to hurt yourself in that regard as well. I think most runners have had various injuries along the way. I don't think running really I think running gets a bad rap sometimes as something that hurts you if you train the right way and you're smart about it and you have the right type of shoes and you're careful. I don't think running causes injuries, but I think swimming obviously has the least impact physically because you're in water and there's the buoyancy and things like that. And again, I think it's without a doubt, in my opinion, at least the thing I should do more. I'm not a big swimmer. And I think it's the best exercise. If you only had to pick one, I think swimming would be the one.
Well, let me break this up because I know what Jack's answer is. And I'm going to go with weight training. And I'm going to tell you why. I was on a swim team. I competed in swimming. and it's great. Everything you said is very true, Doc. But there's a lot of fat people that swim. I'm not gonna lie here. There's a lot of people out of shape that do swim. Running is great for your lungs. If you run, running on tar is a little bit more hard on your joints and stuff than running on, grass or some track made out of cork or something like that, or gravel. But it's great for your lungs. And I've seen a lot of overweight people, that do run, and it's great to me to build up your stamina, your wind. It's something I used to do all the time playing sports. And like you said about running, weight training is the same. If you do it correctly, there's nothing like it. And I'm going to tell you why. As you get older, no matter if you swim or no matter if you run, your muscles and you naturally become weaker. And if you weight train correctly, and I'm not talking about bench pressing 400 pounds or, squatting 600 pounds, something like that. But if you keep the muscles groups of yours healthy and strong, it's better for you in the long run. You can walk farther. You can lift things like you used to when you were younger, and especially if you work at an older age. I mean, that bag of flour or that bag of oats you throw over your shoulder, or those pots you carry, with weight training, it makes it a lot more easier. And it, believe it or not, it does help you in walking. A lot of people, when they get older, they say use some kind of bands or something just to keep your leg groups strong enough that you can do normal walking. And a lot of people that have certain diseases, the first thing they do after they get them up and walking is put them on some kind of weight or band training to strengthen their muscle groups. While swimming is incredible exercise, as you said, works all the muscle groups. I think you have to maintain some sort of strength as you get older, and that's why I'm going with weight training.
Doc, I thought he was reading my mind because I really have very little to add to what he did. I agree with what he said, and he represented me perfectly. It was like I'm listening.
You sent me the notes.
Yeah, I mean, I thought had I written this down, I would have checked to see whether I still had my notes or whether he stole them, because he read my mind perfectly. Listen, all three are great. Okay, all three are great. But the question is, if we could only pick one out of the three, okay? One out of the three. To actually do it, swimming's the best. As Doc said, it gives you the full body workout. Listen, resistance training is the best thing for you. Something, in other words, pushing back. You obviously get that in weight training because of the poundage of the weight. There's a resistance, okay, in that. Running, there's a resistance, to a degree, but not truly for the full body. Your upper body is getting a very minimal workout when you're running or jogging. I understand the arms move, but they're not supposed to move that much. It's not supposed to be an unnatural movement. But in swimming, terrific workout. And this is coming from a non-swimmer, okay, who is saying this. So that should carry a lot of weight. For practical purposes, guys, let's face it, it's hard to find a pool. You have to make a commitment to go to a pool. You're not going to do it any day. If it's the cold winter, what are the chances of you wanting to go to a pool, and then you towel off and then you go outside in the winter? It's not the most appealing thing at all times of the year. Plus, it's advisable to have a lifeguard around. You don't want to do laps in the pool all alone. In case you catch a cramp, it could be hazardous. Mac is kind of laughing about me with the safety and that. Running is simple. You get a good pair of running shoes you invest in. You can go out, and you could go out just about anywhere and find a place you could jog, even though I don't advise you going to the heart of Manhattan and start, trying to get your way around. And weight training, you don't necessarily have to belong to a gym. You can get buy your own weights, get 5-10 pound weights, get something heavier, put them in a corner of your home, and you could weight train that way. But this is coming from a lifetime runner too. Swimming covers everything, okay? Covers the upper body. You could build strength with the resistance of the water. That would kind of the equivalent of weight training to a degree. It really would. And kind of the stamina, the legs, it wouldn't be quite the same as running, but it would resemble it, imitate it. I mean, I could go on, but, Doc said it best, about swimming. If I had to pick any one particular thing, swimming would be the best out of the three.
The only counterpoint to swimming and running is, as age goes up, it's harder to really swim hard to get that workout in, right? It's hard to run hard to get that workout in because of course you lose breath and you got to breathe correctly. As I said, I swam competitively for a couple of years, and the breathing is one of the most important things. And I was young then, so it wasn't that hard. But as you get older and you really want to push yourself swimming, it becomes a lot harder. Weight training doesn't necessarily have to be harder. You don't have to lift a lot of weights to keep your strength up. Where running, again, as you get older, of course, it gets harder to breathe and a little bit harder for your legs to stay strong and run as long as you normally would. And you normally end up running slower, which is as an impactful workout as running as a little bit faster or quicker. So that's the only reason why I would go with weight training, because as you get older, guys, the strength is very important. And as I said, even people that are in some kind of therapy, weight training is a big part of that, as long as it's done correctly.
It is, but they'd like to send people for rehab to the pool.
Sure.
Even just walking in the pool or whatever, that's kind of like a big part of it. I noticed too, you mentioned like with age getting older. I'll tell you, as I'm getting older, for the first time, I've had to deal with injuries, not severe, like kind of pulled back. When I start running, I like the treadmills at times when I go to the gym, because it reminds me I can do more than jog still. I could sometimes actually run at a good pace, and it's something that I didn't think I could do anymore. But, I get in shape, I do it. And then after having a couple of days of really good workouts and thinking, I might still have it, my knee is sore. I mean, and now I'm smart enough to pull back, not work through anything like pain, a different type of soreness. There's the good soreness of getting in shape. Okay, you could tell what that is, using muscles you hadn't used for a while. Then there's the type where you're risking injury if you continue. You got to pull back. Plus the hamstring that you see with regular athletes becomes a problem. I had a couple of hamstring pulls. And you think of all these professional athletes who have supposedly the best trainers in the world, and they're on a disabled list, it seems, for like 6 weeks. So what chance does it give a guy like me who doesn't have a trainer or anyone looking after me? I got to look after myself, rehabilitate myself. If it takes James Harden forever to play, what hope does it have for the average guy? So he's got a baby himself. So what would someone advise me to do? They'd say, well, you could go in the pool in the meantime while you're rehabbing and keep in shape that way. So,
yeah, they do it. They have pool running. You put weights around your midsection or whatever to give you buoyancy. And you can run in the pool.
Sure do. Yeah. Sure do. So anyway, that's our thoughts on the best exercise. And we have quite a bit of time, so we'll be able to get into something after this. But this is one of my favorite subjects. I go with Jack and ask, who's better? And this could be about anything, not just sports, guys. But we're going to start off with a sports. Who's better, Jack? Who's better, Chris Paul or Kyrie Irving?
I don't like Kyrie. If we're talking about on the court, we're not talking about attitudes and the whole thing surrounding Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's the better of the two players.
So you don't think that leadership and team play has something to do with it?
I'm not saying Chris Paul isn't a leader, but the bottom line is this: for all his leadership qualities, this is the first time he's going to the NBA Finals. So where has his leadership, what's it translated? His leadership didn't translate at Houston. He had problems there. He had some problems with the Clippers, not having an attitude, with the chemistry and everything. So what exactly is leadership? Leadership has to translate into something eventually. Otherwise, it's just an overhyped word.
Okay. All right. There you go. John Wayne or Clint Eastwood, Jack?
Oh.
Clint Eastwood is more recent. That's a tough one. I mean, John Wayne the Duke, Clint Eastwood with all the movies. I'll have to go back in time and be old school and go with John Wayne, because who's going to be more legendary going forward in the years to come? When you go back in time and see who is a bigger legend, okay? We're not talking about body of work who may have done, a few more good movies, but John Wayne was the ultimate man. Keep in mind, he was the ultimate man at the time. I mean, John Wayne the Duke.
No, it's got to get Clint. I'm going to go against you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very hard question because John Wayne, of course, represented.
Give us your answer, Mac. Don't just tell us about it. Break the tie.
Break the tie. Let me see. Do you feel?
You know what? Clint has more of those iconic movie moments. Go ahead, make my day, and things like that.
He's feeling lucky. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you're feeling lucky, and also a director. But there's something to be said about John Wayne. There really is. It's tough. I would give the edge to Clint. So that's me.
Carol Burnett fawned over John Wayne when she met him for the first time. She met him on a show. He was like her idol. She was gushing. She lost it completely. And then when she was interviewed later, she talked about it. That was her idol, John Wayne.
Unbelievable, a legend, really. Scottie Pippen or Kevin McHale, Jack?
Scottie Pippen. I mean, I know Scottie Pippen lately has been saying a lot of things, and he's not necessarily the most popular guy. That shouldn't cloud our judgment. Scottie Pippen was kind of overshadowed by playing with Michael Jordan, but Scottie Pippen was such a great defensive player. I mean, I know how good Kevin McHale was, but Scottie Pippen, definitely.
I don't know. I might disagree with you there, Jack, because I think Kevin McHale was overshadowed by Larry Bird, and I think without Kevin McHale, the Celtics wouldn't have gone to the championship at all. But that's just my opinion. Humphrey Bogart or James Cagney?
Oh, well, Doc didn't give his opinion.
That's all right. Basketball, I'm out of my league.
What's the next one?
Humphrey Bogart or James Cagney?
Well, James Cagney, we loved the way he talked and all. Oh, boy. I don't know, quite honestly. I'll go with Humphrey Bogart. You heard Bogey and McCall and the whole bit, and a very close one. I mean, a photo finish down to the wire.
Yankee Doodle Dandy or Humphrey Bogart, right? It's got to be Bogart. Got to be Bogart.
Both had great voices. I mean, both were unbelievable. All right, Jake LaMotta or Vito Antuofermo?
Oh,
Jake LaMotta, you said?
Yeah, Jake LaMotta or Vito Antuofermo.
As much as I love. Listen, no. Friendship aside, honestly, and the good thing being friends with Vito, I can talk to Vito straight, and I'd say, no, I put LaMotta ahead of you, Vito, because so and so. And but listen. The name, the fame. Listen, LaMotta had the chance to fight everyone. It was a different era. Vito fought the best guys available. And LaMotta, look, he beat Sugar Ray Robinson in one fight. And he's legendary. I actually was honored to be able to have dinner with LaMotta, one night. And it was like a heck of an experience. There was 6 of us. But I was with myself and another world champion, Mike McCallum. And even though McCallum was a former world champion who's an International Boxing Hall of Famer, we kept whispering, looking over at LaMotta. We were in absolute awe of him. And whenever LaMotta showed up at a banquet with fighters like Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, they'd be looking over at LaMotta like he was the guy, in the presence of a legend. It would be like the modern ball players today seeing Joe DiMaggio enter a room. They would all stop and look at him at Ted Williams, and they would be in awe. So you got to go with the Raging Bull. One of the great sport movies, right, of all time, Raging Bull.
No doubt. Let's go Catfish Hunter or Vita Blue, Jack.
Ooh.
No. Listen, no. I don't think Doc. I'm surprised at you. Catfish Hunter was bad at his best. I mean, Vita Blue had that great 1 year where he captivated, everyone in baseball. He was the biggest box office draw, in baseball that 1 year. But you talk about a body of work, plus Catfish at his best. Catfish was the ace for those Oakland A's staff. He was, arguably the best pitcher in baseball. Blue was a sensation, the biggest sensation. Him and Fernando Valenzuela. That would be a better question. Who was the biggest sensation for 1 year? And throw in Mark Fidrich. Now you got to debate the three of them. Wow, that would be great. But Catfish Hunter was a greater pitcher. Taking it all consideration.
That's a tough one. I think it's a little closer than you think. And I think we talked about this a number of weeks ago, and I wrote about it. The idea that Vita Blue was traded to the Yankees, and then that trade was overturned by Bowie Kuhn. You have to wonder what might have Vita Blue had done if he had been on those mid-'70s Yankees teams to help them go to the World Championships as well. Catfish was great. I think Catfish helped turn the Yankees' whole franchise around. He was the first guy. He came before Reggie, and he won all those 20-game seasons with those great Oakland A's teams. Yeah, but, pure talent, Vita Blue was a heck of a pitcher. It just didn't last. So I think overall body of work, it's got to be Catfish. But it was a closer question. I didn't expect it than I thought.
I don't think it makes a difference to their fortunes. If they got Vita Blue, would they have gotten Catfish? But even if they had them both, they
already had Catfish.
75 season. And that was the Red Sox year. The Red Sox had a magical team. I don't think the Yankees beat them out, even if they had another edition. As I remember, the Yankees stayed in contention. They made a real run at the Red Sox, but the Red Sox won with some room to spare. They were just better, 75. And, of course, the Yankees won in, the AL pennant 76, 77, 78. So what would it have mattered?
What would have happened, do you think, if Vita Blue was on that staff in 76, Jack?
The Reds were so much better than the Yankees. Maybe the Yankees would have won a game at most. No. They don't beat Cincinnati, that year. Not the big red machine of 76.
Tracy Austin or Chrissy Everett, Jack?
Yeah. I'd have to, start looking up, researching a little more because I'm going from memory all the tournaments. But it seemed like Chrissy Everett was always there all the time. And Tracy Austin, you could argue at a peak, but Chrissy Everett was there all the time. I mean, her undoing was being there when Martina Navratilova had her number. Okay, but outside of that, I go with Chrissy Everett.
Chris Everett.
Rondo or Dennis Johnson?
Dennis Johnson. Dennis Johnson was better than Rondo. People forget how good Dennis Johnson was. So, he was an outstanding player with the Seattle Supersonics. Then when he went to the Celtics, he hooked up with Larry Bird. And they won the most famous single play in basketball history when Bird stole Isaiah Thomas's inbounds pass and had the presence of mind to wheel and turn to Dennis Johnson, who was cutting towards the basket and scored on a layup. And it resulted in the Celtics going to the finals. I mean, that was like poetry in motion watching that play.
Yes, Larry Bird was falling out of bounds when he made that pass. Finally, Jack, Sammy Sosa or Mark McGwire?
I'll make it quick. I just think Sosa was a better overall play. I mean, let's forget steroids corking the bat. Doc?
Yeah, I'm going to say Sosa too. He had McGwire always reminded me of just a better Dave Kingman. He's just a big, tall guy who hit a lot of home runs, and then both of them though clouded by the whole steroids thing.
Okay, so there you go. That's who's better. Now, we've just had some recent news of a young lady who ran a race. I think she either set a world record or came close, Jack. She got knocked out by a rule by the Olympic Committee. I want you to start us off with that and talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, Sherry Richardson. I took a big liking to her. She was charismatic. In this day, you have to be socially conscious what you say. She has beautiful hair. I'm not going to say the color exactly of her hair, how it comes out, because I'm watching on TV. And she seemed like a beautiful person, great runner. We're all rooting for her. She's gone to the Olympics, won the 100 meters, charismatic. Her biological mother passed away not long ago. And to cope with it, she said she smoked marijuana, okay? And there's a rule, if you smoke marijuana, according to the International Olympic Committee, they suspend you for 30 days. They have 3 reasons. To me, personally, it's bogus. I would let her compete, not give her the 30-day suspension. Now, she still might get to compete in the Tokyo Olympics in the relay, but the problem is her event that she won in the Olympic trials is going to be run within the 30-day parameters, but the relay is going to stretch outside of that. I assume, maybe I shouldn't, at the United States Olympic Committee, it's under their jurisdiction. Once the 30 days are up, whether they want to allow her to run in the relay, I believe they absolutely will. Maybe I shouldn't assume that. I don't want to get into the merits of why it's bad or not bad of smoking marijuana. I don't want to go there with that. I understand rules are rules. If you break a rule, there's got to be consequences, okay? And there should be consequences for Sherry Richardson for breaking a rule, but not so severe for her to miss her event in the Olympics. There has to be a way where the suspension should take place after the Olympics, because when the Olympics end, athletes tend to run in events in Europe, their tours and so on. And I'm sure that's what she was planning, running in some meets in Europe, cashing in on the Olympic glory with her sponsors, suspend her for that amount of time. So she'll lose some money and so on. Listen, she took responsibility for what she did, which was refreshing. She didn't make excuses. She messed up, but she explained, look, her biological mother had passed away. And one of the touching scenes of the Olympic trials before this news came out is when she qualified for the Olympics, her running up, giving her grandmother the biggest hug was very touching, heartwarming. Let her run, but attach a penalty onto it somehow that's just. Not the third. If the third, had she used marijuana 4 months ago, it would have been a 30-day suspension. She wouldn't have missed the Olympics. Don't make the girl miss the Olympics over something that's not a performance enhancer, which didn't improve her performance.
And Doc, what do you think?
All right, so I didn't know a whole lot about this until we started preparing for the show, but I'm just going to go with what I'm reading on CNN here. The World Anti-Doping Agency and the USADA label cannabis as a banned substance, as it poses a health risk to athletes, has the potential to enhance performance, and violates the spirit of sport. So I'm not going to get into good, bad, or indifferent. I'm against drugs. But I don't know if marijuana is a performance enhancer or not, but the rules are the rules. She knew the rules. She decided to go against those rules. And I don't think we can have a situation where we say, well, I know the Olympics are within 30 days, so it's so nice that you're such a great runner. I don't think they should make this rule for anybody. If you break the rule, whether and the penalty is a 30-day suspension, it's a 30-day suspension. You're out. That's we can't say, well, the Olympics are within 26 days, so we're only going to give you a 25-day suspension so that you can compete, or else you can open up the rules to anything. Anybody can break any rule and say, well, the Olympics. I mean. A player does something, he gets suspended or whatever, and you're out of the Super Bowl or you're out of the World Series or whatever the big event is. If you do the wrong thing, you face the consequence. I feel bad for her. I didn't know much about her. I haven't been following the Olympic trials or anything like that. but everything I'm reading says she's a great person, and I wish her only the best. And hopefully she can then compete in those events in Europe and make lots of money and make a big name. But earlier in the show, we were also talking about, the glory of Olympic gold and various trophies and various rings. In life, you have to make big decisions and put off big things or put off opportunities because you have your eyes focused on that prize. My eyes should have been focused on that Olympic gold. And you could make the argument that by doing things that jeopardize that, you're putting yourself above your teammates and your country and the whole idea of the Olympic team that's going to compete. She knew what she was doing going into it. I don't know the whole story, but the rule is the rule, and I'm just reading what the rule is, and I think the consequence has to be enacted.
Well, to me, to me, guys, there's a lot of rules out there, and some rules are just bad, right? I mean, look at Jim Thorpe, right? Jim Thorpe played professionally because he needed to put food on the table. They took away his Olympic gold medals, and then they gave them back to him after he died, right? That really helped him out. So I agree with you to a point, Doc, that you know what the rules are, and you should play by the rules. But look at the NCAA. They just changed the rules just now because they were forced to by the United States Supreme Court, where if a kid had a toothache and the coach took him to have work done on his tooth, he could get fined and the team could get banned. And so I agree with you to a point that there are rules and you should abide by them. But there are bad rules. And maybe the Olympic Committee should take a look at this rule. Because let me tell you, marijuana, the use of pot does not in any way make your performance better. If anything else, it makes you a little bit more lazy and a little bit more lackadaisical. I like I said, I do agree with you to a point. But if this is in the United States right now, pot is becoming more legal in every state. Federally, it's going to be legal pretty soon. There's going to be a lot of rules that are going to have to be changed in all sports. But this is a 1 in 4 year event, Doc. This is, she doesn't get to go next year and go to the Olympics again or play in the Olympics 30 days from now. So what you're telling her is she's not just suspended for 30 days. She's suspended for 4 years. So to me, that rule is a little extreme. And not that they should allow her to break the rules and nobody else. What they should do is take a hard look at that rule. If you're talking
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. They could look at the rule, but if the rule is the rule, she knew what the rule was when she decided to do what she did, right?
Right, and so is sticky things on people's hands in baseball, which they should take another look at. I just think that this is something that should call the attention of the Olympic Committee right now to think about this rule seriously. And like I said, it's not like in normal sports where you get a 30-day suspension or a 10-day suspension or fine. She's disqualified for 4 years, and you guys got to remember that. So, yes, Doc, I agree with you. The rule is a rule, and she shouldn't have done it. And maybe under circumstances she wouldn't have. Maybe she would have. Who knows? Maybe she just likes smoking pot. I don't know for sure.
Guys, maybe there's a way to solve it, because it would appear that after her 30-day suspension ends, my guess is the United States Committee is going to allow it to run in a relay. Let her appeal it, and let her appeal be heard right after. Well, she won't really appeal it. Right after, let her run the individual event that comes first, and then don't allow it to run the relay. Kind of flip-flop it. But, just the way the time frame comes. And Mac, you said it best. The Olympics are once every 4 years. In this case, it's going to take place in 3 years because of the pandemic. I mean, that's a devastating penalty for this 30-day thing when it just happens to come up. That's like telling a player, you broke a rule, you broke curfew, you can't play in the Super Bowl the next 4 years. That's basically telling them.
Let me ask you this: college, or let's say there's an athlete, right, and the championship game is the next day, and they're the star player on a team, and they go out and they break some rule. A high school kid state championship is that weekend, and he gets into a brawl and a fight. and the school consequence is you are suspended immediately for what you did. Do you say, I know you're a senior, this is the championship for the state, and it's a big game, so we're not going to suspend you because you got in a fight. We're going to suspend you starting on Monday, but you're going to play in the football game. I think that sends the wrong message to the school, the student body, and everybody. You get suspended. You knew what it was. You got in a fight, and now the team's
but she didn't get a brawl. But let me throw this back at you. Let's say one of the kids on the team, his biological mother passed away, and he just happened to be hanging out, and he was depressed and just smoked pot that one night because he was so depressed. Shouldn't we show him a lot more understanding than we would the kid who got into a brawl?
I don't know if it's a school has a no tolerance for drugs policy. We're going to say, you smoked pot on Friday. We're going to let you play in the championship game on Sunday. No way.
I agree what you're saying. You start bending the rules. You're asking for trouble because where does it stop?
Because that's not just a 4-year penalty. That's a lifetime. You lost your chance to play in your state championship game as a senior because you broke the rules. But you did.
Yeah, you want to know something? I can understand it going both ways.
I think it's a hard question. I agree.
But I think all three of us will agree on this at the very least. When her 30 days are up, the Olympics are still going on, and the relays are going on. We all agree the United States Olympic Committee should absolutely, at that point, allow her to run in the relay.
I think she will.
We all agree at that.
I think she will.
Well,
the
Doc,
consequence. She served her consequence.
Let me ask you a question. I think punishment like you're talking about is a case-by-case basis, right? So the kid gets in a brawl. Suppose he was defending his little sister. Would you then suspend him?
I think obviously now we're going to get into all sorts of nuances. If he's
there is what I'm trying to say is that what you're talking about is a case-by-case basis, right? I mean, you as a principal, if a kid is defending his mom or sister, or maybe he's being attacked and he brawls and he beats the heck out of the kid. I mean, don't you got to look at that side also? What I'm saying is that I think sometimes the rule is not totally correct. In some instances, it might even be wrong. But I think circumstances play a big role in whether that rule is strictly enforced or not. Even in crimes, there's different levels of.
Oh, that's correct. Right? That's correct. But then you got to adjudicate those things, and you can't just say she was sad and her mom died, and so it's okay that she was breaking the Olympic rule, which she knew ahead of time. She has to know that rule, and so we're going to let her compete in the Olympics anyway. I think that's a big generalization.
What I'm saying, Doc, is maybe there should be a little bit more adjudication in that rule.
Sure.
That's all.
I think that's a reasonable answer right there. Have an opportunity to appeal the decision of in front of a body who could look at this all and say, you know what? Yes, in this situation we'll let it go, but in that situation we won't. Sure, I think that's fair.
Right, and that's what I would agree to.
A hearing of some sort, absolutely.
Some kind of thing where she could appeal.
In a school situation, the parents have the right to appeal a decision like that and to bring it before a superintendent or a principal or a board of ed or whatever. Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so we'll at least agree to that. Listen.
The days change, guys. The days of discipline have changed. Bear Bryant at University of Alabama, when he had Joe Namath as his quarterback, Namath broke curfew, and Bryant didn't allow him to play in the Orange Bowl and held to it. And Namath always revered, his college coach. He wasn't bitter. But things have changed, yeah. And I see Doc's point. An athlete is never bigger than the sport.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
And I know how you feel about that, Matt.
I agree with that 100%.
I'm a bit of an old softy when it comes to things like that.
I just think that there are certain bodies that have strict rules like that are a little too powerful sometimes, and maybe there should be other means to resolve things and just say this is this and this is that, and that's all I'm saying. Folks, thanks for joining us. Been a great show. Doc, great job. Me and Jack tried to do our best to bring you the best in sports every day. We'll be back on tomorrow from 8 to 10 with our This Week in Sports with our special guest host for the second hour, the two-time Super Bowl champion, Jim Jeffcoat. Robert Butler will also be joining us from Sportscope. Great show. Have a great Saturday night. We'll see you tomorrow.